Hello, SWTA Nation. It's Executive Director Rich Sampson coming to you from the SWTA Home Office in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And this is our first video newsletter coming to you. There's a lot of details and updates going on related to the coronavirus issues. And instead of writing this all out in a newsletter with different areas to read and a lot of details to process, I thought it might be better to convey some of this to you visually so you can kind of grasp some of the details and the dense issues that we're talking about right now. First of all, we hope that you and your staffs and your families are negotiating these unprecedented times as well as we can, and hope for your continued health and well-being until we get back to a state of normal, whatever that's going to be going forward. I wanted to bring a few issues to your attention and some things that you'll need to act on real soon. It's not too late to get involved in the Phase 3 response bill that's going through Congress right now. You may be hearing some of the political rancor that's going on with it right now. There's a lot of different ideas and perspectives from both parties that are going on. That will get sorted out hopefully by the end of the week here. And this will undoubtedly include massive support for transit. And we're glad to see this coming through in a Phase 3 bill rather than a Phase 4 or 5 bill down the road. Some had projected transit might not have been in this initial round of supports and programs getting out to people, but the industry has done great work together. Both SWTA and APTA and others like T4 America and the Bus Coalition have all been involved in Washington, making sure that significant investment is included in the bills. And we're seeing anywhere from at least $16 billion to up to $25 billion being set aside for transit, kind of at a 80-20 ratio between urban and rural programs. They're going to use the formula programs because those are already in place and function pretty well for getting out funds to people quickly. So now's still time to get in touch with your representatives in Washington, both in the House and the Senate. Both chambers have not passed their final bills yet, and there's going to be a conference committee needed to reconcile the two bills together. So contact your senators as well as your representative, especially if you're represented by someone on an appropriations committee. And we've listed those in the SWTA Nation that have relevant assignments on those committees right now, and you'll see contact information for their staff in Washington. If you're in one of those states or in one of those districts, please reach out to those staff today if possible, if not as soon as you possibly can, and just express your support for inclusion of transit. I want to update you on just a couple of details that we're noticing in these bills, and these are not reasons to not support the bills, but we do have a couple concerns about them. First of all, the 5310 program, which supports services for seniors and people with disabilities, usually operated by nonprofit systems. There's no funding going through 5310, at least in this bill, in either House or the Senate. So if you do use those programs, there's not going to be immediate funding advanced through there. So we're going to pay attention to that. Hopefully in a future bill, we might be able to get some funds out through that program. Additionally, if you're a nonprofit that receives Medicaid funds, which is a lot of people doing non-emergency medical transportation, there is a ban on those types of organizations receiving those funds. We're working with some organizations in DC to stay on top of that issue, but do be on the lookout for that if you're a nonprofit organization that's doing any EMT service. If you want some more details or have real strong concerns about that, please reach out to me at rsampson@swata.org, and we'll get some more details out to you on that. It's going to be crucial that you reach out to your state DOTs just as soon as this bill passes and the president signs it, to get some estimates on how long they will be releasing the funds, and what's the process for distributing those, and what can you be expecting through those formulas coming your way. So do get in touch with your state DOTs perhaps now, just to lay the groundwork that we'll want to be in discussion with those folks just as soon as the bill is done. One last note on what's going on in Congress. We heard some discussion late yesterday on calls with other state associations with APTA and SWTA that folks on the Hill might be looking at the Phase 4 or Phase 5 bills. So we're talking about Phase 3 going through Congress right now. Might be looking at Phase 4 or 5 as an opportunity to do the reauthorization bill right now, as opposed to in the fall or extending it. There might be an opportunity for Congress to do some major kind of omnibus programs that reauthorize major pieces of legislation like what's currently known as the FAST Act. So be on the lookout for some additional communications from us on those phase 4 or 5 bills. And if we have an opportunity to do reauthorization, it might come at us quick. So we want to have our priorities and specific acts in very soon, actually, if this ends up materializing. So just keep that on our radar screens, and we'll be following up more on that very soon. Shifting over to the Federal Transit Administration, really urgent that you get in any requests for deadlines or procedural extensions or relief through the FTA's emergency docket process, and we have a link for that to that below here. The more agencies that list specific concerns, perhaps it's extending the deadline for the bus and bus facilities program, maybe it's relief from drug and alcohol testing because those facilities might not be open during the shutdown here. Any other kinds of regulatory relief, whether it's NTD reporting or triennial reviews coming up later this year, those may impact you, and you may not be able to have ability to work through those processes as you normally might during this time. So get those requests into the FTA. They will be taken seriously all the way up to the acting administrator level. So click on that link and be sure we get in our comments on that. We'll also be working with folks at the FTA and Congress to make sure that this time period is accurately reflected on upcoming reviews and the apportionments for formula programming. After we get past all this, we want to make sure that we're not penalized for what's happened to our ridership. Now, these are trends that are generally impacting every transit provider around the country, so we're all kind of going in the same direction on the data impact. So hopefully how those play out in apportionments and triennial reviews will be largely consistent. But we do want to be looking at that and trying to hold harmless the work that we're doing in spite of a really unprecedented event in our society. So we'll be working with SWTA and APTA on making sure that your baseline numbers that you use to receive funds and that any evaluations are conducted take this period into account. So we'll be looking into that going forward as well. A couple other items that are outside of Congress and the FTA. Stay tuned in hopefully later this week or next week for some guidance from the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, specific to transit on responding and cleaning to this virus threat, and some recommendations that are very specific to transit providers coming from the CDC. There's been some overall blanket guidance on across all different kinds of industries. They're hopefully going to be issuing some materials and resources for transit specifically very soon. Also, if you look like your system may need to shut down service entirely or significantly, be sure that you're coordinating those decisions with public health officials in your local area and emergency management agencies so that A, they know that you're doing it, and B, there's a plan in place to take care of those vital trips to things like dialysis and healthcare and essential workers needing to get to their jobs to make baseline services continue. You want to let your local community officials know about that and what your plans are and what are your barometers for returning service eventually. So don't forget to be in communications with those folks as if you're looking at a shutdown process. And we've been hearing from the FTA and other folks that these need to be local decisions, and we're happy about that because this is too specific on a local area to make a blanket decision for all transit agencies. So you do have local ownership of that process, but be sure that it's coordinated in such a way that folks know what you're doing and the rationale behind doing that. We know that folks in transit, they have a baseline and a foundation for doing essential service, and folks that do paratransit and demand response service have been used to working in somewhat high-risk interactions with passengers, whether they have they're going to dialysis or chemotherapy or any number of medical treatments and care in the past, we know that so many of our folks have good training and procedures to this effect, and this is what we want to see going forward. How we view our role in communities really needs to be the foundation and our rock for how we make decisions about maintaining and continuing service. And we just wanted to recognize and support all that good institutional knowledge and procedures that your systems have in place to serve those people that really need urgent care and mobility to continue their lives successfully, even in a really serious time like this. So we appreciate, and we will make sure that folks in Washington and elsewhere know about that good work that you do and the procedures that you have in place as caretakers for people have been in place for a long time and are tested and proven. So that's something that we have in our minds going forward from this point. Just a few SWTA-related issues coming up for us now that we're past kind of the government and legislative updates portion of this. We are continuing to move forward with planning for our summer university conference this coming July in Santa Fe, July 20th through 23rd. As of right now, we're going to plan on that being an in-person live event in Santa Fe, but we are going to monitor the situation as we get into April, May, and make appropriate decisions based on our hotel contract and travel concerns going forward with that event. But as of right now, we will be holding that event, and we'll keep you posted on any updates there. We know that so many of our peers and counterparts at state associations and national associations have had really tough decisions to make regarding their spring conferences and those in the early summer. And we've been in touch and support with those organizations. But we know the tough time that they're all having. We're working together to make sure that any financial hardships from those associations might have some ways to rectify those once we get past our immediate time of concern here. Just touching back on the Summer University Conference real quickly, traditionally as part of that conference or the marketing seminars that have preceded that, we've had what's called the SWTA Spotlight Awards for marketing and outreach campaigns. We're going to continue those awards regardless this year, so stay tuned for an announcement of our submission process for the Spotlight Awards. We'll get you details on how do you apply and the process by which we'll be making those decisions on those awards. And I've been told it's a really fun and creative aspect of what we do here at SWTA. So look for the Spotlight Awards moving forward this summer. And lastly, as I mentioned in a couple emails going out at different points, SWTA will be conducting a strategic plan for our organization this spring and summer. We've already had a few members step up to be part of the strategic planning team that will go about that process. If you're interested in participating in that, we'd love to have you. We need all sorts of our members, whether they're transit agencies or professional members from outside the region or business representatives. We want all your input, and whether you're new to SWTA Nation or you've been around with us for decades, we want input from all kinds of folks, large urbans, rurals, tribals, small urban, everybody. We need a good representative collection of folks working on this. We'll be releasing our RFP for a consultant to help guide us through that process later this week, so stay tuned for that. So with all those things in mind, just want to again wish you all best of luck and good health going forward. We'll keep you posted on what's going on with SWTA as an organization. And if there's anything we can do for you at any time to get the word up to Washington on requests that you have or share examples and data from your peers in similar situations, please let me know. Sampson@swata.org or my direct cell number, 225-270-0855. Get in touch with me anytime. We're not traveling at all right now, so I'm here at the office. Carrie Hughes is over at her office in Oklahoma. We're around day-to-day basis. Kristen Joyner is working on a number of projects for us. Anytime you need us, please don't hesitate to reach out. So I wish you well, and we hope to see you all again in person real soon. Be well, and we'll talk to you soon.